staff and everyone watching online. I'd like to acknowledge at this time the land upon which we gather is a traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq, and we pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. The second item on the agenda is a declaration of conflict of interest. If there are any councillors who feel they have a conflict of interest with regard to any items on the agenda tonight, please declare so now. If not, we'll go to the next item, which is approval of the agenda. The agenda is before you. If anyone would like to change the order of any item or add any items or delete any items, please indicate so now. Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Okay, the minutes of the regular council meeting of the 10th of March and the special council meeting minutes of March 24, 2021 are in your package. The first meeting was on the 10th of March was a regular council meeting. The second was a special council meeting to approve the budget. So I think we can approve both minutes with one motion. If everyone's had a chance to look at those minutes, is there any discussion, any errors or omissions in either set of minutes? Did anyone notice?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, with the seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. So that's both sets of minutes approved, Robert. Okay. Okay, any business arising from the minutes? Maybe we should take a minute just to look at those and make sure that there's nothing in the minutes from our previous meetings that will not be covered on the agenda tonight. Anything that anyone noticed that we're not going to be discussing or it's not part of our agenda for this evening's meeting? Okay, if there are no follow-up items, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is presentations from the floor. Do we have any presentations from the floor tonight, Robert? No? Okay. So we'll move on to my report, which is in your package. I guess some of the highlights of that meeting were the meetings that were held with Ministers Alward and Jameson to discuss the new Stratford High School and among other items. The inaugural meeting of the Community Campus Implementation Committee, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Jill Burridge for her leadership of that committee. It's an excellent committee, and I think it'll be really useful in bringing all the parties together to really make the school the best and the campus the best that it can be. We had a meeting with the Honorable Lawrence Macaulay about our submissions or our request for ISIP funding and several other town issues. We rode down the snowstorm, which was quite an adventure, but we did have a good meeting, and Minister Macaulay undertook committed to supporting the town on a couple of initiatives. So that was a beneficial meeting. And I think one of the highlights of this month was the approval of our 21-22 town utility operational capital budgets. I congratulate everyone who worked on that, especially the Chair of Finance, Councilor Gail McDonald, who worked really hard on that, as well as Director of Finance Kim O'Connell, CAO Robert Hughes, manager of engagement and business development, Wendy Watts, and who else worked on that? I guess it was also all council. And the managers, each manager and all council members. I think we come up with a really fair and doable budget with a minimal tax increase and something that will really move the town forward on a number of fronts. And the only other thing I'd like to mention at this time, well, actually two other things. First of all, staff and Councillor Gail McDonald and Councillor Derek Smith took part, and myself took part in an anti-racism virtual workshop that was put on by BIPOC Usher, and that was an excellent discussion of some of the perspectives of the BIPOC community. The only other thing I'd like to mention and highlight is I had the honor of presenting the 2020 Volunteer of the Year Awards. I'd like to really give a shout out to Senior Volunteer of the Year, Mary Hughes, Youth Volunteer of the Year, Tyler Weaver Council, and Adult Volunteer of the Year, Claire Cudmore. And the nominations for the 2021 Volunteers of the Year are now open. And when do they close, Wendy? Are they?
June 1st.
They close on June 1st, so I encourage everyone to think about people that really do a lot for our town and volunteer of their time. And so I'd like to think about putting their names forward and nominating them for recognition by the town for all that they do. So that's my report. Any questions on my report?
Could you discuss a little bit about the Bell Let's Talk ice cream? I want to personally thank you for helping doing that. I want to thank the staff for putting that off. It's a well worthwhile cause and a little bit of money raised in mental health. I want to thank everybody for that, but thank you for organizing it for us.
Well, I didn't organize it. It was Wendy and the staff, and all I did was eat some ice cream and show up. But it was an excellent fundraiser, and everyone. I think it's a really good cause and something that it really encourages. It brings highlights the importance of mental illness in our community and good mental health and the fact that we really need to be cognizant of the importance of mental health and do everything we can to encourage people that may be struggling to reach out and speak with someone. So thank you for that. Okay, any other questions on my report?
Your Worship, I wonder if you could elaborate on your meeting with Education Minister Jameson.
Yeah, we talked about the Stratford High School and the community campus concept, and we discussed how we're going to work together. I've got a great memory, but it's short. Maybe Councillor Burridge would like to say a few words, or our CAO, Robert Hughes. Maybe they were both at the meeting, and maybe they recall something that would be of interest and importance to Councillor Donald and the other councillors.
Yeah, we I guess introduced ourselves to the new Minister of Education, kind of briefed her on, gave her a little bit of background on where we are at this point. The two main topics for the discussion was one, introducing this community campus concept that we have, and that being, the town working with the province and trying to see where we can find some economic benefits and maybe partner up on a couple of things and potentially work on an operating agreement moving forward, shared use of facilities, what could be done there and see what her thoughts were on that. We also had Mr. Elwood there as well, who's a big supporter. She led in with, she's new in this position and just, here to listen. So I think she took it all in. I guess my first impression would be that she thinks, what we're doing here is pretty great. There were no commitments made or anything like that. It was all pretty high level. The Deputy Minister of Education was there as well. So I think shared use and what could be done there was a big topic of discussion. And then secondly, we got a little bit into enrollment and projections and, just the conversation around, us getting a better handle on and wondering where the public schools branch and Ministry of Education stands on what the projections look out into the future. And so they were going to do some digging in that capacity. It sounds like the board is going to do some work there, the public schools branch board. So yeah, I think those were the two main topics. Robert, I don't know if I'm missing anything that we will cover.
Yeah, thank you. I think you hit on it exactly. The importance of stressing to the new minister the growth of Stratford and how much we need a new high school and the accompanying facilities as part of the community campus. So that was a really good meeting. I think that we were successful in getting our points across, and I got the feeling that they were listened to. So I look forward to a really positive relationship with the new minister and with the progress of the high school.
Was there any dates mentioned with regards to our residents that children in grade 6 and 7 or 8 are looking forward? It was a couple of years away.
Well, the question was asked at the meeting, when do you expect them to break ground? And I think the answer to that was after the design. The design is really a long process, the design process. So it'll be probably, we were told, somewhere in 2023, probably summer of 2023 or spring of 2023 that will break ground. And with the intention, I guess, of opening the school in September of 2024, is that the date?
Their anticipated opening is fall 2025.
2025.
Takes 2 years ago.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to item number 8, Chief Administrative Officer report. Chief Administrative Officer Robert Hughes will give his report. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reports in your package. I have a couple of items. I am waiting to hear back from Maritime Electric. They were having meetings with the province in the last few days, including this afternoon, and so there's still the potential of a utility scale solar farm is still something that we're looking at, and hopefully we'll get a handle on that within the next couple of weeks because those applications are due. But I'll let you know that that's still alive, and we'll get back to you on that and figure out what the benefits and costs are. Also, one note, CDC has completed a strategic plan. I will circulate that to you. I have a copy of it, and I forgot to do that before, but I'll send a copy to you. And I just want to note that Michael Fleischman, who's our board rep, did a great job making sure that sustainability was actually incorporated into that plan. You'll see that when you get it. It's kind of going on a bit of a new path for CADC to look at social and environmental benefits, but Michael was really strong in that process to make sure that they reflected our values. And also, for your information, CADC has hired a new general manager. They hired Wade Arsenault, who was previously Director of Operations for CADC. They advertised and had internal and external applicants, and his Wade did very well compared to all the other applicants. And they also promoted Aaron Hansen to Director of Operations. So Wade's old job. Aaron's been with CADC for 2 years. So those changes were made at the top of CADC. Happy to answer any questions on the report.
Yeah, question there, Robert. Could you give us an update on the Maritime Electric regarding the potential solar farm, or where we're at?
Yeah, that's what I started with. I talked to them, well, I emailed them, from Ed and just asked if they could let me know where they're at, and they were meeting that day, and they were meeting again today with the province to discuss the options and what they can do. So he thought he would get back to me this afternoon, but I didn't hear from him this afternoon, but I'm sure tomorrow we'll hear from him, and we'll see if that's an option or not.
Question, during this time of COVID, do you feel that talks with outside agencies like Maritime Electric has increased, decreased, stayed the same? It seems to me that we're getting a lot of calls now from different departments outside of the town of Stratford for looking at, the future of Stratford.
I would say they probably returned to normal. They were down a lot in the spring last year, but probably since the fall, things have pretty much got back to normal with outside agencies.
Thank you. Sorry for being tardy, everybody.
No,
My apologies.
Thanks for coming. You know, the work you do is really important, keeping it safe.
Raises what?
Any other questions for, Robert? Thanks for your report, Robert. We're just on item number, we just finished item number 8. And we're now moving to item number 9, safety services. So I will ask the Chair of Safety Services, Councillor Garrett Smith, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everybody. The first one we have on our list is the Safety Services meeting that was held on the 15th of March last month, 2021. The information is in your package. It's a pretty standardized meeting that we had. We talked about citizens on patrol, the fire report, the RCMP report, and it's just a regular meeting. There's nothing outstanding unless somebody has questions about that. I can answer you.
Just on the capture program that was outlined at our last meeting. Could you say a few words about that?
Well, apparently, the RCMP higher ups, and I think I'm talking about Ottawa, has put that project on hold until they could find out some legal questions. Corporate Douglas here, probably could. Is that correct? It's on hold for the time being?
Yeah, they're just, they had a few questions about it.
Okay.
Still in.
Any other questions on the safety services meeting? Right. Jeremy, we don't have anything for street lighting this month. Nothing there. All right, RCMP report, C. And we got our information sheets on Friday, and then everybody looked them over. It's a pretty standardized month. There is slots issued for the month for 47. I want to comment on that, is that it seems to be that there was a lot more patrol time available to the Stratford members to keep on the road. And we also have a traffic member who spent a little bit of time over here in Stratford for us. And we had 47 tickets for the month. The breakdowns is included in your packages. Speeding, non-moving seat belts. The non-moving is pretty well expired, license plates, expired, safety stickers. Okay. So I'm going to ask the public to go look at your license plates and make sure that the stickers are on there because you want to get stopped. All right. NC checks for the month, 65. There are a couple of things we should note that we are losing our clerk. She has accepted a position within the federal government. We'll be moving on. And the second thing is, I believe our staff sergeant, Hootley, has been transferred.
Not yet, he will be transferred.
He's in the verge of moving on. Okay. So there'll be a new staff sergeant named to the Queen's attachment. Other than that, it's pretty well standardized, your reports are there.
Just just want to comment, the charts look great, because we're talking about requesting the numbers, and numbers look great, and also with the impaired drivers there, a couple are unfounded, but there's one charge, so it's nice to see those in the summary report, and then, the chart can just have 5 impaired drivers, you would know, now
Well,
it's listed unfounded, and the other were charged, right?
but I would think that those unfounded charges might have been 911 calls coming in from citizens saying that this vehicle is suspicious. So, yeah, the police are responding, but the citizens are watching too.
Oh, no, it's great, that's something that we've looking at, a couple councils request that, we haven't now, so it's great.
Yeah, no, that's excellent talk. I also want to mention, Greg McCormick, who does up our statistic sheets. He does a lot of work for us, and that is appreciated. He's not stationed in Stratford, he's stationed with the headquarters group, right?
He's with CISPEI.
Pass my thanks on to him. Good job.
Question, Councilor, sorry, just the thefts there, 19 thefts, is that, it's considered to be a lot of thefts in 1 month in town of Stratford, is that, what, gasoline, drive-offs and so on, Corporal? Yeah. Sorry.
That's right.
Drive-offs and so on.
Okay.
So the thefts, we had a culprit responsible for several gas and dashes, not just in Stratford, but in the surrounding area. It has been caught. That court date had one, so that spiked it at least 5 or 6 occasions for this individual. So typical bill in relation to items going missing. So.
Thank you.
Corporal, I just want to say that I'm not surprised that the numbers are up because I do see them every morning. I keep saying that. I continue to see them in stocking trailers. So I've also, for some reason, seen them in my subdivision. I'm not sure whether they're looking for me or they're, I don't think I even live there, but anyway, for checking me, I just renewed my poll registration. I found out that they were expired. So we're in the mail. Okay, for stopping.
There is a member in your neighborhood.
Okay. And also, I did happen to take a drive up by the school, and I did see a member up there one morning. So the visibility certainly has increased in Stratford, and it was a major problem there for a while. But I believe having their new attachment has certainly helped new people, and I see, I don't know, a place where you can park your extra cars, but there were more than 3 good times. Good, so it's nice to see, or see police cars anywhere. And, anyway, congratulate you on the work you've done over the last month and after reading the report.
Thanks for coming to our meeting tonight, great to have you.
Corporal Dudley.
Hello.
While we have you at the podium, just the last box in the mayor's report, this is total. So I believe it should say total calls, perhaps, total calls for the community or something. So I know you don't have it in front of you, but just,
It's normally a total calls to service.
yeah, so it just says total, so if you would correct that for next month, that would be great. So, and I also want to commend you for the number of stops given last month. I think, that better reflects, the amount of violations that are occurring in the town. It's nice to see some people getting ticketed for such.
So we have any more questions for the RCMP report? Okay. We'll move on to B, Humane Society. The Humane Society's report pretty well standardized from previous months. The reports are there, there's nothing outstanding that should be brought to the council's attention. And they do their work, they do the patrols, and now talk about transit. The numbers are there, but the transit file is being worked on. During this time of COVID and the population growth and the needs, we have to look at other avenues. And we search and search and search, and we open discussions, but it is an ongoing thing. It's, people are in business and moving people, and they want to make a profit. And, that, it's an ongoing thing, and all I can say about it. I realize that we'll probably never make money on transit, nor should we make money on transit. But you have to find somebody who's willing to sign up for the long term. You can't have somebody sign up and say, after 6 months, no, we're out. That's no good. You have to have something in a 5-year plan there. But the file is being worked on. So if you see anything, bring it to our attention, please, so we look at it.
I think Councilor Smith, and I think who were Carrie now involved, some, let me call it the infrastructure director.
Yeah, so I'll pass on to Jim.
They indicated that Travis and Kerry, those that are putting on the new ride sharing app, are working together to come up with something for the fall. They're hoping with the vaccine and with the numbers start returning to some type of normalcy that they'll have something ready for us for the pilot program then. So there'll be more to come on that. And the new buses have arrived, mini buses and some of the larger buses. They're getting the T3 wrap on them, and there'll be some further information coming for council here soon. And they're going to bring one of the buses over here for us to have a look at and take a tour around with them. So that's coming here very soon too.
In regards to the school electric buses, it'll be interesting in a year or two from now to see how they work out during our climate and winter and falls and stuff like that, and battery life. That'll be a good indication for us for transit in the future.
Yeah, and we have someone that's very involved with that, Department of Transportation, it's on the very good committees with Donald, so he'll be able to update us on that information as he goes along. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to see those on the road.
Right, any more questions?
Just for the record, Ward 3, we're still waiting and patiently, and I know it's coming sometime, but
Parts of
I know you're very supportive of that. And I know that you're working hard there.
Just on that, what is the September date? Would that be the trial pilot program in Ward 3?
That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
I don't have an exact date yet, but they indicated that the fall would be the best time to try that out. And they're hopeful with, like I said, with the vaccine and the rollout, that there'll be more uptake at that time, give us a better idea of whether or not the program will work properly in that area.
So Ward 3 transit is coming.
Hopefully. Looking promising.
Well, we're patient, we're waiting, so.
Carrie,
Over.
what are you gonna do when it comes? Are you gonna
I'm gonna be honest and wave to everybody.
We're gonna do records.
Ward 3, be able to get up to that campus, they'll get the buses to that campus.
All right. All right, so any more questions on transit?
Just that the ridership might pick up if we do get our campus going, and then they'll take a bus to the campus, so.
It's unfortunate. The COVID thing put everything in whack, and including a lot of people who work downtown for the federal government are now working from home. So those people using those buses are now not using the buses. And you can see it when you go in downtown Charlottetown now. There's actually a lot of parking places available to park, the meters. One time you couldn't.
That's because of the commission there, the tickets.
Okay, any other questions on transit? Okay, we'll move on to the Crossroads Fire Department. Before I get into the numbers, I want to advise council. I would like tonight to advise council and the people of the Crossroads Fire District of the following. This Monday past, Crossroads Fire Board has decided they will launch a pilot project, and that the firefighters will be able to seek both help to both their physical and mental well-being, if so needed. This program is indeed in its early stages and is being worked on and is hoped to be in place in the near future. As we all know, firefighters face high stress levels in their line of work. This in turn has taken a heavy toll on themselves as well as their immediate families. This program will be able to help them in these situations where coverage might not be covered under normal conditions. It is believed that this program might be one of the first on PDI to look after the volunteers of the fire department and the important area of one's overall health. The board has basically decided that these people are volunteers. They are not covered under an employee assistance program. They're in a high level of stress. And we all know about mental illness and might hit you at any time on the event over the past 2 years. So the board has decided that they want to implement a program to help these people in the new program. So that's new off the press release. We hope it never has to be used.
To the question that Jared, to the department, get a debrief with them. Maybe Kevin can answer that.
I don't think, I mean, they talk among themselves,
Yeah.
but there's no professional avenue for it. Is that right, Kevin?
There is a provincial organization, if there's a serious incident, that they will respond, upon request to the fire marshal's office, they'll respond to any local department and do a debrief. This is the program that Eric's referring to is a little bit more on the individual level, that you can access it virtually, at any time from any location. So it's a bit of a different system for sure.
And I think the families are also covered under this, immediate families.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah. So, good, yeah. Pretty good. Okay, and the fire reports are there. We did notice that we had 7 false alarms within the town of Stratford for the month. I asked about that. It was not one location. It was many locations. Because usually we see the number 7, usually all one location. The fire alarm keeps on going off. But these were 7 different locations. And other than that, it was pretty well standardized month. We have requested for the fire chief to submit a report like the CAO and the mayor does every month, a little point-by-point bulletin, so we can ask the questions about ongoing training or something like that. So that's going to come in the future, of course. And that is it for the fire report. Questions? Hereby yield the floor back to you.
Okay, thank you for your report, Councilor Smith. That's good to hear about the program for the firefighters. It's well deserved and it's much needed. Okay, we'll now go to item number 10, recreation, culture, and events. And the chair of that committee is Councilor Steve Glenn. So you can give this report.
Yeah, thank you, Woody. As you know, spring and summer programs will be starting up there, so the recreation committee is very, very busy. The registration so on with their basketball and their pickleball and so on. We met recreation culture, met arts and culture, met. We didn't meet, sorry. This week we had an events meeting. Artist Daryl Bulio is in the initial phase of developing a new public art piece at Ponside Park entitled Leap, which focuses on the natural habitat of the frogs and lily pads. The piece will be a wonderful addition to the growing community park, so I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, Gerald did a bird down in the Women's March and of course a leaf on the waterfront there in Charlottetown, and he's a great artist. The winter art programs are winding down. Stratford Youth Center Council, as always, doing a terrific job. Max, as always, Youth Center Leadership Committee has now grown to 10 members in grades 8 and 9. They are looking at planning leadership in summer 2020 to Ontario, depending on the COVID status. I know this time last year, I think Lee, Rachel, and Dwayne, and with the youth and attended the Blue Jays game. Pretty exciting for them. The leadership committee hosts an Easter Bunny Drive through recently on Saturday, 8:30 at Cotton Park. If you were there, your worship, you've met the Easter Bunny. The committee made up of 200 Easter bags for children 10 and under to give out. The event was very popular, running at a treat bags for 45 minutes, so a lot busier than Halloween. The committee continued to keep the drive-through open for additional 30 minutes to allow kids to see the Easter Bunny. The committee did not charge for the event, but they collect $600 in donations from the public. So that's a great job there. The youth council will be hosting their fifth annual walkathon on May 7th and 8th this year. The youth council has challenged the youth center leadership committee to participate as well to see which group can walk further over a 24-hour period. Both groups have begun collecting donations, sponsorships during the event. Donations will also be accepted in person online. Kickoff summer raffle beginning now in April, run right through to mid-June. Youth center members will be selling tickets for a chance to win Sophie's gift cards. This year, there will be prizes of $500 for first, second will be $250, and third for $100. Tickets are $5 each, 3 for $5. Youth Center Fishing Club will be starting on April 13th, when the fishing season opens, yes. It's open to youth center members and their families and teachers for basics of fishing. All equipment and supplies are provided. The program runs for 5 weeks, with the first week of training and the remaining 4 weeks of actual fishing at nearby locations. Courts and sport fields are accounts out for an early stage of field maintenance, multi-use programs, sport organizations, baseball, softball, soccer, cricket, flag football, lacrosse, to ensure schedule expectations can be met. The multi-use this will be first year for the multi-use court at Ponside Park, converted from skating rink to a basketball and road hockey courts, and the tennis nets have been installed on Ponside tennis courts. A new rebounding wall will be put up prior to the end of April. The tennis nets at Kenlock Park will be installed in the coming weeks. This new program here, the town has purchased some disc golf cages. I'm doing this myself. To install a full free conservation park. The sport of disc golf is increasing in popularity and displayed in natural outdoor environments. So it's a great location, the full free conservation park. Installation of temporary cages will serve as a trial and term potential for future disc golf courses developed to the community. And programs all winter recreational golf have operated at full capacity in London April 30th. A spring pickleball program will begin in early May with the hope of moving the program outdoors to the Camelot multi-use course for the summer months. The town offered a new introductory beginner pickleball session for the month of April. With the popularity and growth of pickleball in town, we'll continue to offer these type of classes each month starting again in October. Basketball programs started open the season, the previous season, April 11th. Summer program registration underway for summer camps. The town center recreation. The town center gym and fitness areas continue to be well utilized on a daily basis with recreation programs taking place every morning, afternoon, and evening. The daily average in the fitness area dipped a little bit in March to an average of 109 people per day from 141 this time last year. These numbers do not include those participating in the various daily programs. It would be safe to assume that 200 to 200 people every day use the town center. So it was a great vision by a former mayor Mike Farmer. To have this gym, and he had a long-term plan, and look where we're at right now, which gives us maxed out. So I just cut those notes there, and it's a beautiful gym out there, and it's being full every day.
Thank you for your report. Any questions for Councilor Glenn?
Councilor Glenn, I'm hearing things about the summer program, baseball, soccer. Are we being maxed out on those? Are we turning away, possibility of turning away children because they can't get in? Because of fields and stuff?
There's, I know this time, I know last year, where our girls softball program was maxed out. I know that in our baseball programs, and I received a couple calls on that too. Jeremy, our creation director, can answer a few questions there too.
With the 4 fields that we have, baseball and softball are at near threshold. So we've tried to add field time during the Monday to Friday during the course of the day. Easier said than done. That most of the coaches are parents that are working at that time. We have been able to add some field time, but evenings, weekends,
during the prime time. We are still somewhat strapped. We have teams that are trying to work with Dona, Port Augustus, another field at Port Augustus direction. I can't remember. Yeah, so there's a field there, and we're working also with Cardigan with the elite teams, the AAA teams, to try to get more time, field time for them elsewhere, but majority of the members are Stratford residents, so yeah, we are somewhat strapped.
And in regards to like fields, I take it these fields need a rest, you can't continuously play on fields without damaging them.
We do a pretty good job. We did an extensive process to put the fields away last fall in terms of aerating and overseeding them, and we're going to do the same process again this spring. We were aiming for all our sport fields, soccer, baseball, multi-use fields, that sort of thing, to be open the long weekend in May, and we're doing an aeration process shortly, and when we can get on with the heavy equipment, and we're going to overseed them again, fertilize them again in the spring. So we'll do our best to maintain them.
So in regards to Fulton's Marsh Field, multi-purpose field, can that be converted into makeshift stuff for us, or?
Yeah, we use that field right now for programs like lacrosse, like football, soccer use it, although they don't have nets there. It's one of the locations we're looking for the U7, U9 programs they have there this year. We're also had a discussion with baseball in regards to potentially adding a backstop, a small backstop out there so that they can run their T-ball programs up there, so that they can essentially put 4 bases there and have a backstop for those players up there.
Thank you.
Question there, because of the popularity and the large numbers in pickleball, are we able to use the Bunbury and the onside rinks there for that, for the summer months for pickleball? Is that possible? Or?
We used the 2 years ago, sorry, we added the lines at Kinloch Park.
Yeah.
We had 4 courts there, which has been more than enough courts for them. And we set aside every morning, Monday to Sunday this year, actually, every day of the week for pickleball from 8 till 12. And then the way it's set up that they have a lockbox there, so the members have access to go at any time. Because they're deemed recreational courts at Kinloch, so they can go there. We haven't opened those courts as of yet. It's just too soft around there to access their unique routes.
I just have one question as well. Did we try out I'm just wondering, we talked about pre-registration for Stratford residents for some items, and maybe the summer program registration might have one. How'd that go? Did it work? Did people pre-register, or how many days ahead?
Yeah, we did, the pickleball program is the first one that got started for our mini program. It filled up pretty quickly, but we do have a short waiting list, so we have a capacity of 32 for all our programs just with COVID, although our capacity is 50 for the gym. It's restricted to 32, so most of the programs, the different sessions have 2 or 3 or 4 different people above the 32 on a short waiting list. So we decided to accommodate all those individuals into those respective groups, just because on most days we probably average 22 to 25 people show up. So we doubt that there's going to be any days that all 32 show up. So we were able to accommodate them. We've had regular meetings with pickleball, so we're going to continue to look at expanding the programs. We might do early mornings from 6:15 to 7:45, continue work in the afternoons. We did have discussions with the Stratford Elementary. We weren't able to get into the schools this year, but they assured us that in the fall, if things continue this way or progress so that we're kind of somewhat past COVID, we'll be back into the schools in the fall. We're able to expand into the evenings as well. So it's really astounding how much pickleball has grown. And kudos to them. They're doing their own programs, and they're inviting to have other people come. And Charlottetown's expanded the programming at the Eastlake Center, although it's now shut down. But cricket and pickleball are 2 really important sports in our community.
Thank you. That's great to see. Numbers good.
Any other questions for
Councilor Glenn?
Dr. Glenn, the leap from the frogs and the leap, will that be by the birds? Is that what they're planning on putting that? Is it location, where's the location?
In Humane Society Park, in the Fulton, with with the crowd.
Yeah.
It's going, on site.
Oh, going on,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No, the bird, is that performance? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you for your report, Councilor Glenn. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to finance and technology. I'll ask the chair of finance and technology, Councilor Gail McDonald, to give her report.
Thank you, Richard. So the April finance report is in your package, plus the minutes from our last meeting, as well as the income statement reports from the town and utility, and I also have a resolution, Your Worship. So back to the finance report. So the budget was passed, as we all know, on March 24th. The finance staff has been working on year-end files from the that are now back to the auditors for the Stratford Seniors Complex. The staff is also working on a new monthly financial spreadsheet for the managers to monitor monthly expenditures. Staff is inputting new budget numbers into town suite. Staff is also working on our safe restart expenditures and getting everything finalized for that. And they have been working on the utility bills. E-bills have been sent out, and mailed out copies should be in the resident's hand by the end of this week. The due date on those bills is May 14th. The resolution coming up in a few minutes was worked on by the finance committee plus finance staff to add a full Francois Biot graduation prize to our grants bylaw schedule. Also, staff is also going to soon begin training on asset management in town suites. And they're also working on year-end files. The Finance and Technology Committee met on March 16th. The minutes from that meeting are in your package. We had an update on the technology and concerns about a recent significant hack on the Microsoft Exchange system. And also we discussed the new grant for the Cold Francois Biot. Crime Stoppers has put in a request for some funding for the upcoming year, so that's still being discussed at the finance committee level at this point. If there's any questions on that report, myself or the finance director will be able to respond. I'd like to move on to the income statements. Currently, the revenue for the town down 2.2%, and expenses are also down 8.4%. And the utility expenses are currently down about 14%. Our revenue is skewed a little bit because the government grant is showing to the tune of $2 million, so that shows an increase there in the revenue side. That's my report. You were sure if there's any questions, I'd be glad to respond, and otherwise the resolution is ready.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councilor Glenn? Councilor John? No questions? Okay, please proceed with your resolution.
Thank you, Richard. Resolution number FT 007-2021, grants and donations bylaw number 38, revised Schedule A. Whereas council established the grants and donations bylaw number 38, to allow any person, group, or organization seeking a municipal grant, donation, in-kind service, loan, or loan guarantee. And whereas Schedule A of the bylaw contains the grant amounts that can be amended by a simple resolution, and whereas it is desirable to amend the grant program schedule under Section 5.2, annual grants to community organizations to include an Ecole Francois Biot graduation prize in the amount of $300. Be it resolved that the attached amended Schedule A grant programs of the grants and donations bylaw number 38 be hereby approved. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Finance and Technology Committee via an email poll on April 7th, 2021. That's a move.
Seconder?
I'll second. Thank you.
Any discussion?
I just want to say that I do support this. The amount that we give, $300, that's nice today, but what about tomorrow? $300 in tomorrow's money might not be that much. So
Yeah, so we,
we might cover that to an amount to be determined by the
Yeah.
board, or like, I know we have $300.
yeah, so I don't know if we can leave it open-ended, Kim, or really if this big.
I'll vote on it, just
In there.
$300.
Yeah, we just put that, $600 in the shop on rural, a year and a half ago, so, the Stratford students are certainly, pleased to get that, but certainly we can look at it in the upcoming year. Right.
Like, when we originally started with shopping on rural years ago, it was a little bit lower, and we did increase it a couple of years ago, so, and like we do, I think it's probably better to have the exact amount in the schedule. So we, because originally it was $250 that we gave to Charlottetown Rural, and we increased it to pretty much, probably 3 years ago.
I mean, like I said, today's numbers is great, but tomorrow's council, the future councils might have to be changing this stuff again.
Yeah.
But if you're happy with 300, that's, we'll put the amount in.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, any other, discussion?
I see the, column right there, 50,000, is that the correct number?
Kim, should that have been amended, I wonder?
40. Is it 40?
Yeah. We could perhaps amend that next month then.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was on the, county income statement.
But it's showing up here in the bylaw that we're discussing there.
Oh,
It's showing up there, so
okay,
it might just be like a typo, or perhaps we just didn't get the policy amended yet.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other, questions or comments? Okay,
I think the grant programs are great. It's great to see the list there, great analysts. All needed.
any other comments, questions, discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you for your report. All right. We'll now move to item number 12, Planning Development Heritage. As the chair of that committee, Councilor Bill Burridge, to give the report.
All right, so, we just met on, April 6th, the minutes are in the package. We do have a resolution coming up here, which I'll speak to. Maybe I'll lead with, what's going on in the planning department right now. Just this morning, Kevin and his team held a developers virtual workshop, and they do this annually. I don't think they were able to carry it last year. But anyways, they held it this morning virtually. So developers who do work in Stratford come online, and topics and on the agenda were the National Building Code 2015 and National Energy Code, lot grading plans, and erosion and sedimentation controls. There's 26 people on that Zoom call. Sounds like it was a success. They had emails after saying that was very informative and the discussion was worth their while. So that was kind of nice to get done this morning. If there's any further questions on that, I wasn't in attendance, but Kevin would be able to answer your questions there. Beyond that, we have the building permit summaries, which I'll get into in the meeting package. We had a heritage subcommittee meeting on March 23rd. I don't know if you noticed coming in, but we now have a panel on heritage law, and it just alludes to the story of the bricks and gives you the background on where those bricks came from, which was the Much House. So it was kind of and gives the story of the wall. So that's in place. Take a minute to go see it on the way out tonight. And the only other point Kevin had was development permit applications, have picked up significantly over the last couple of weeks. They're still meeting their 7 to 10 business day turnaround, which is what they set. But applicants can expect this timeframe may be longer if the applications continue to increase. Most delays on the applications are due to applicants not being able to secure all the submission requirements. So, yeah, so if Kevin wanted to add anything to any of that, he's certainly welcome. Those are the main points that he added. Or if anyone has questions on any of those items, feel free. Otherwise, we can delve a little closer into the building permit subjects if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Regards to St. John's Avenue, I've seen some activity along that street. I understand we might have lost the business out of that area, but there's plans for that development in that area also?
Yeah, I don't know the details on the, where the actual, branch is going to be relocated. We don't have an application for it to be in town. We have quarries, but we don't have any application for it in town. And there is redevelopment of the existing building that is going to happen, but we don't have applications for that yet either. And then there's 2 additional, businesses along there that will be changing, very, very shortly. One has vehicles on it now, electric vehicles on it now for sale, and there will be more to come at the car wash location.
So these buildings are not gonna be sitting vacant, they're snapped up quickly.
No, we have applications in for 2 of them, and waiting for applications in for a third.
It's great to see, Kevin, that you're part of reform there, getting still whatever it is, getting rid of the fence area. It looks good. Yeah.
As far as the report, at the planning meeting, the big, item, I guess, on planning, the last planning meeting was, the Foxwoods, revised development, which we do have a resolution here, tonight. So in that discussion, so basically you have the Foxwoods whole development, that everyone's familiar with. So what they're doing is they're going to one section at the end of Windsor Drive, and there's a cul-de-sac. And there's a couple of bigger lots on Cardiff. Is it Cardiff?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cardiff. That have, the 2 big lots have always existed, in the schematic. The cul-de-sac at the end of Windsor has always existed. Their revision is it used to be 5 lots. And now there's 6 lots going around there. So they kept the same footprint of the cul-de-sac that was originally, in the schematic. They just resized the lots within that footprint to bring it to 6 rather than 5. There was some stormwater engineering done that did add a little kind of green access way. There's stormwater that had to be, sent another way, or was it the sewer, Kevin? Stormwater.
They reversed them.
They reversed
Sewer,
them,
yeah.
that's it. Sewer and stormwater. But the footprint stays the same. In the discussion, at planning, and it was recommended by planning in the end, the main topic of discussion was, this 5 lots going to 6. And, this is a sustainable subdivision. And so, people were wondering, like, should that be a consultation? And, is that a big enough change to warrant a consultation? And I would say that was one of the biggest points of discussion on this. And I'll let Kevin speak to it here. But planning, did recommend it at the time because it didn't change the original footprint of what that cul-de-sac was. So we weren't taking those lots further into the wood, because it is a wooded area. You weren't making that any bigger. So they felt that the change was not a significant one. But anyway, here we are, and I'm gonna let Kevin kind of speak to, after that meeting, it was recommended by planning. After that meeting, Kevin started thinking, because we are in a sustainable subdivision overlay realm with a different set of rules. So he did do a little further digging, and we may, there may be some language under the sustainable subdivision that kind of may warrant consultation on this small change. So I'm gonna let Kevin speak to that piece, and then we can decide, what we think on that before I get into the resolution, because if we feel that consultation is required and we want to defer it, we probably should defer it rather than go into the resolution, discuss it and decline it or shut it down. So I think it's better to have this discussion prior. Kevin, maybe I'll let you kind of get into the background now.
Table resolution, or can we discuss it inside?
Oh, maybe I'm not allowed to do that.
You can table it and then make a motion for the probably should table.
Oh, okay, so I read it in. Okay, I'm sorry, green newbie here. I thought that we did it before. So I will read it in. Town of Stratford Resolution number PH 005-2021-SD007-21. Z&C Flourish, Foxwoods Revised Development Scheme, Major Subdivision. Whereas in May of 2017, Z&C Flourish International received preliminary approval to subdivide parcel number 398552 into 154 lots, including 129 single dwelling lots and 25 semi-detached lots, for a total of 179 units to be approved as a sustainable subdivision. And whereas early in 2019, the developers began the process to revise the original development scheme, changing the number of units to 110 single dwelling lots and 47 semi-detached lots, for a total of 204 units. And whereas on August 29, 2019, an open house was held to present the proposed revisions to the development scheme. And whereas the area off the end of Windsor Drive was presented having 5 lots in 2019, but has further been revised to now have 6 lots. And whereas the area off the end of Windsor Drive and the 2 new lots on Cardiff Lane are acceptable to both the town and Department of Transportation Infrastructure, so it has been suggested that this area be forwarded for preliminary approval, and the remaining lands will be back for consideration after the necessary revisions have been made. Be it resolved that the preliminary approval be granted to an application received from Z&C Flourish International Inc. to revise the Foxwoods Subdivision Development Scheme for the new Phase 2 section on parcel number 398552 to create 8 single dwelling lots as a sustainable subdivision, subject to the following conditions. Conformance with the development scheme Phase 2 showing lots 150 to 157 prepared by CBCL drawing SK1, CBCL file number 212619.00, issued for approval dated March 30th, 2021, including the lot requirements for this development. That the proposed development meets all of the requirements of relevant town of Stratford bylaws and policies, except for the lot standards, which are being approved as part of the development scheme. See condition 1 above. That stormwater management plan be designed by a licensed engineer using low impact development guidelines approved by both Department of Transportation Infrastructure and the town of Stratford. That the proposed parkland areas as shown in the development scheme deeded to the town of Stratford as parkland dedication. That the concept design must meet all of the Department of Environment requirements, and the plan must be prepared showing how erosion and sedimentation will be controlled and contained during construction. That proposed public roads shall be designed in accordance with the provincial road standards of PEI, Department of Transportation Infrastructure, and that a subdivision and road agreement shall be executed. That the sewer and water system shall be designed in accordance with the Stratford Utility Corporation servicing standards, and that a utility agreement shall be executed along with the payment of applicable capital contribution fees required by the utility corporation. That the developer makes an agreement with Canada Post to meet the Canada Post requirement for establishing community mailboxes in new subdivisions. That all other relative provisions of the town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw number 45 are met. that preliminary approval shall be valid for the period of 3 years. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on April 6, 2021. So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion.
So I think what I'll do is I'll hand it over to you, Kevin, to maybe kind of walk through this one.
Thank you, Councillor. So to just give people an idea of where we're talking, the end of Windsor Drive is, I apologize, that's not looking very well. Windsor Drive right here, so this is the cul-de-sac. Cardiff Lane, there's 2 lots off Cardiff Lane, and the green is what's proposed to be park identification. I'll flip over to the PowerPoint presentation that was done in 2019. So this is what was presented to residents at that time. And just quickly, so this is the existing preliminary plan that was approved in 2017. And they were proposing some redesign in the center area where the red lines are. This was the plan that was presented to at an open house to residents within the area at that time. And this table kind of talks about the revisions that were done. So basically, that was the plan that was revised at that time. You see the area of Windsor Drive and Cardiff Lane. So this is what Councillor Courage was referring to. This plan at that time showed 5 lots. It showed the access to the green space in this location. And this was what was proposed to be an easement at that time. Now what is being proposed, I guess I'll give you a little bit more history on this. So there's a number of items that have to be addressed within the center portion of this section. Phase 1 is existing, but so just recently, earlier this year, the town received the preliminary servicing drawings that were forwarded to our utility corporation and Department of Transportation for discussion on these new road configurations. So there's quite a delay from 2019 until when we actually received those preliminary servicing drawings. And we got back to the developer recently and had a number of concerns with some of the revisions that were being made. And the suggestion was made, if we are generally in agreement with what's being proposed in these lots down here on this end, could they break that off, make this the new phase 2, and present that forward to council for preliminary approval. So that would give them something to actually work on this year and give more time to sort the details out of this center section. So that is what was agreed upon. This was again, these 2 drawings and just has contours on it in a little more detail. So that's kind of the background behind it. But the discussion I think we need to focus on that was a fair topic of discussion at the planning board meeting was 5 lots shown in this development plan back in 2019. And the plan that is presented now shows 6 lots within that same area. So this revision was reviewed by planning staff and also our environmental sustainability coordinator. The footprint of these lots doesn't actually change from what the original was, so there's no extension into the green space any further, no more loss of treat area. What the intention was they're going to make these lots similar size to the lots that are proposed off the end of Falcon. You'll see the difference in the lot sizes here on this plan. We didn't think from the staff perspective that the actual number of units was as much of a concern as the keeping the tree area the same, keeping the green space the same. There was another engineering change made, which allowed the sewer to go in through this area and down to the existing sewer line at Cardiff Lane, rather than through the tree area down to a future pumping station. And this dash line is now where the storm sewer or the stormwater is going to go. So it's going to drain into the wooded area, but not have to disturb it in a way that you'll have to cut through it to put a sanitary line through it. So with those proposed revisions and engineering reasons why they did it. Staff felt that this was acceptable to bring forward, and we didn't feel that it triggered enough of a change to go back and consult with the public again. Now, planning board obviously had a bit of a different opinion on that. They felt that if there is a change in the number of lots, should we be consulting with the public again? After a lengthy discussion, the motion was moved to go forward to council. There's been discussion on it since the planning board meeting, and I think there should be discussion around the table here tonight and see what council thinks.
Thank you. Couple of questions. This subdivision has been ongoing for a while. How many times have they approached us for changes? I know this is only one little part, but this is the second or third change, this subdivision?
There's been no actual changes to it yet. Tonight will be the first change.
It'd be the first change, yeah.
There has been a discussion that started back in 2019 to change the remaining area of the subdivision, namely the area in the center portion of the subdivision. But nothing has formally made it to council for a decision until this time.
Okay. And now, regards to, I'm interested in about the trees you're talking about. Has Maddie walked that area to see what kind of trees we're looking at here? Because she did an excellent job in that Rankin subdivision. Identify trees.
She's been in through this area previously, yes, and I think give the developer credit. When the original design was done, the majority of the tree area was to be preserved. That was one of the things that their original designer emphasized to them. They wanted to originally develop in the tree area because everybody wants tree lots. But from a sustainable subdivision perspective, that is something that should be protected. So they did do a good job of identifying we're going to save the majority of the tree area and only do small pockets of development.
I mean, the overall forest is what I'm looking at.
Right.
I don't know what kind of trees are down there though. And the trail system's gonna stay in place, basically?
Yes, there will be modifications to the kind of informal trails that are in through the wooded area now, but to make them link up to the new proposed trail access point out in the woods.
Yeah, and those trails are going to hook into an existing trails.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
So Kevin, the reason going from 5 to 6, and you're saying it's pretty well the same footprint, no whole other difference, if any.
The footprint actually didn't change at all, just the interior, so the individual lot sizes got smaller, to be more in relation with the lot sizes that were being proposed off of the next street over, which is about.
So it's just another lot that they could get from the same footprint and.
Correct.
And took advantage of it. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
So Kevin, the changes tonight then are the additional one in the Windsor there, but also those 2 new ones in Cardiff, or?
No, 2 new ones, those were always proposed off of Cardiff that way. Yeah.
The question I have, I mean, he's gone from, taking 19 singles and put up 22 doubles for duplexes. Do we have to give notification to the residents around that area for changes? Does the letters that he sent out?
So for this particular phase, so we're essentially ignoring the rest of the development tonight. They're trying to make changes up there. But I don't think that they have that nailed down quite yet, and they're trying to figure that out. So they figured they'd go down to this side of it and focus on this piece, this corner of it, and make this the next phase until they give themselves more time to work on the other. Right, Ken?
Correct. Your worship, I just wondered if I could also just add to what Kevin was talking about. We did discuss this today. Sustainable subdivision process is a little different than traditional subdivision. And there's requirements in there that they have to consult with people about the subdivision plans. And there's there's also requirements that they have to demonstrate the sustainability of the subdivision, and they have to be scored on a certain number of criteria. So what will happen when the whole subdivision comes back is we'll be asking them to basically reanalyze the subdivision against the sustainable subdivision criteria. It may allow them to add more units, but it may say no, because to get more units, you have to actually, unless you meet the maximum density, you have to actually be more sustainable. So you have to have more green space, more energy efficiency, more water efficiency, et cetera. And so we'll basically be telling them when they come back, you rescore the subdivision and we'll analyze it as if it's a new sustainable subdivision. But with this particular one, the 6 lots versus the 5, they haven't consulted with the residents on that. So it's not really, I would suggest, they haven't really come back and followed the sustainable subdivision process by doing that. And there's a little bit of a risk that if it's appealed, IRAP would look at it and say, well, this hasn't sustainable. Now, to be fair, the sustainable subdivision process doesn't actually say what happens when you want to amend it. It just says when you do it in the first place. And we don't know for sure, but my guess is that IRAP would say, if you're amending it, you should follow the same processes if you're developing it. So, from my perspective, there's a little bit of risk here that if it's approved, it's not a major change, but there is a little bit of risk that if it's appealed, then it may be in jeopardy.
The question I have is, if this is subject to a possible IRAC thing, IRAC is not that important to me. Is it the right thing to do here? And is it an urgent thing to do? I mean, is there a timeline on this? Can we wait a month on this, or do we have to get it done tonight?
I don't know that definite answer, to be honest. There is, when you start to get to this time of year, there always is a bit of sense of urgency when you talk about developing subdivisions particularly, because they take considerable time to do the actual construction, and then they want to try and have them done in time that they can actually build units on them before winter sets in. So I know it seems like it's early in the year, but development season is upon us, and a month is nothing to, a month is a considerable amount of time when it comes to a developer. But if we're not comfortable with the proposal, I would prefer to see council defer rather than vote. I think that's the whole purpose of the discussion here, and if at the end of the day we ask them to consult, I would be completely okay with that. But if you're comfortable to vote, we're okay with that as well. Planning board had a very detailed discussion on it, and at the end of the day, they felt that, considering all of the information that was discussed, they were comfortable to make a motion forward to council. So basically, it's in council's hands right now. That's what the purpose of the discussion is here.
I'm inclined to vote for this, but there's another side of the story, and that's the residents in this area. We haven't heard from them, and that concerns me. And that's my point.
In fairness, they were consulted in 2019, but there's been a change since they were consulted, and that's really the whole topic that we're discussing here right now. If there was no change, then we wouldn't be having a conversation at all, because the developer has the right to go ahead with the original proposal. And
Would it be fair to say, Kevin, that the planning board committee didn't have the information that Robert just provided us?
I guess that portion of the discussion wasn't had there. We worked on file since planning board, but we wanted to make sure we disclose all the information here in front of council.
Yeah, there was a discussion at the time, but I think there was a understanding that the sustainable subdivision process was, involved more transparency and a higher level of consultation, but we weren't necessarily, sure of the exact process at planning board, so.
So are we looking for two votes here now, whether or not we should proceed and then vote, or whether or not we should proceed and take a vote on that.
I think we just need to know, if council feels comfortable voting on this tonight. I guess we don't want to go to vote and vote it down.
No, well, that's.
And we would much prefer defer it for the developers, so he can make those adjustments.
We want somebody to move that.
Well, maybe we could just ask councillors to each indicate how they feel about this, if that's okay.
Yeah, the one more thing I guess I would offer is, I do struggle with, the last time the residents in the area were consulted, it was 5 lots, it was different, and so that is a bit of an issue for me. What I would add to it is, at the time of that consultation, the residents in this area, I would say, and Kevin I would say walked away knowing that, they were happier that they ended up with a cul-de-sac. The big worry was, a street coming through, right? And so generally speaking in this development, I think that they were, as far as development going up against you, they're probably more pleased with having a cul-de-sac at the end of their street as opposed to a throughway street.
So I guess the question is this change big enough in your view, in the eyes of each councillor, to warrant a consultation? And are you prepared to decide tonight? And I guess I would ask each councillor to indicate how they feel about this. I think, is that good?
I feel it's a healthy change, personally. I personally have no issue with it. But if the process to enact that change requires a consultation with the residents, then that will trump my opinion on whether it's healthy or not. So I think that if the process clearly states that that has to be part of the process to secure that change, then I think we're compelled to do that.
Okay, do you want to respond to that, Kevin?
Maybe just to clear, it's not clear. I guess that's the issue that we're bringing to your attention. It's clear on how the process is supposed to lay out when they do the subdivision originally. But if they're to do an amendment to it, it's not clear how that consultation is to happen or if it is required to happen. In the original consultation, it talks that if there are changes that are required, they're to be explained why they're to basically respond to people's concerns. If there was concern raised at an open house, they're to respond to the current concerns to say why something wasn't changed, or it's to open up that communication channel between the developer and the people within the area. But it's unclear if you're to come back and propose to revise that. Do you have to go through the same consultation process? That's what if it was black and white, we'd be telling you clearly this has to be done and there's no other option. But
And I think,
it's a bit of a gray area.
and I think that you have to think a little bit beyond this particular instance, right? Because what we do here tonight will set a precedent for future developers who are under a sustainable subdivision lens that are looking to make, smaller tweaks, then we would be setting a precedent, right? For
That's fair.
smaller tweaks, are we willing to accept that a developer can make relatively small tweaks to their plan without doing a consultation? And I think it is a little bit of a precedent setter in a space that we're trying to encourage developers to work in my mind, but that's what I'm struggling with.
So I guess the question we need to decide right now is, do you prefer to vote on this tonight, or do you prefer to defer it for further discussion and further analysis and bring it back to a future meeting? That's basically the question.
One more question, then, Kevin. It is gray, so we don't have the answer. But is there somewhere we can get the answer? No, it's just how
It's the wording in the bylaw, unfortunately, that
believes that,
Yeah.
it could be argued either way. That's essentially what we're going to do is what's council's comfort level, with knowledge that there is some potential risk here. What is council's comfort level with that?
So if we were doing, say, a PERD development, and a developer had a tweak to do, so in other processes, that would be a consultative process. Would we require small tweaks to go back to consultation? Or smaller tweaks?
We have made tweaks to, when engineering, final engineering drawings usually begin, there's always little tweaks that have to be made. Changing the number of lots would typically be something that would trigger, at least us to discuss it at council for that change. But it doesn't, like, Clearview Estates is an example. They wanted to redo the subdivision and make the lots and new bylaw requirements. So we did consultation with the neighbors on that. It wasn't a public discussion. It was letters that were sent out. We were asking them for their feedback, and that feedback was brought back to the planning board and council. So
I think that for me then personally, the planning board has no issues. I know personally looking at that, I think they're healthy changes and I would be inclined to vote in favor of it.
Okay. Anyone else like to weigh in?
Yeah, I have no problem with the concept before us, but if there are risks, and we have to look at that and perhaps defer if we do have time, and there is time. And so, like I say, I'm okay with the changes, but if there's risks there, I think we should defer.
So you prefer to vote on it tonight? Or
No, I prefer to defer.
Okay.
I'm also with Deputy Mayor here. I think that we've been voted in by the citizens of Stratford, and they should have a say in this. If there's possibility they should have a say, I'm voting to defer.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I know it's a change. Jill said she's done 5 to 6 lots there. It's a change and it's a great plan. And if we defer, it's only just a month away, and as long as the residents are notified.
I'd also like to vote to defer as well. One thing, to make sure the residents there of Windsor Drive and Celtic Lane are, notified, see if an extra lot at the end of their street is acceptable to them. But whatever the policy is in place now, it's sustainable. We're changing it, how they saw it in the last open house that we had. So I'd like to defer it till next month. And also now that we did identify a gray area in the bylaw, I assume you put that on your work plan for sometime this year
absolutely.
to fix that up.
Okay, now I think in terms of process, we'll need a motion to defer this resolution for till next month. Would someone like to make such a motion?
I'll move that this resolution is deferred until next month, or whenever appropriate.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you for that. Mr. Burge.
Oh, and I think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Oh, I do have another, oh, yes, the road name, sorry. So we have, the Greener Properties Inc., street names. Number PH 006-2021, Greener Properties Inc., subdivision street names. Whereas the Green Properties new subdivision has 4 new private streets that require naming to meet civic addressing guidelines of the province, and whereas on an 1880 atlas, there are brick kilns noted that are within this area. 2 on the south side of the road and another on the north side. And whereas one on the north side would be in the preserved green area wetland, and whereas the Heritage Committee has suggested the following street names associated with the industry: Brickmaker Lane, Kiln Way, Keystone Row, and Red Clay Lane. Be it resolved that approval be granted to the following street names of the Green Properties, New Subdivision, Bricklayer Lane, Hill Way, Keystone Road, and Red Clay Lane. This resolution bears recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at the meeting held on April 6, 2021. So moved.
Seconder?
I'll second. Go ahead. Yeah. I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any discussion?
Just like to have to follow the one. Oh, yeah.
Councilor Pierce, I'm wondering if these, street names have been approved by 911 yet?
Yeah, Kevin runs, every time we put street names up, he runs it through the process to make sure it doesn't have any conflicts with any other names.
I know there's a second Red Clay, road in Cove on the island, so I know that.
You can have, what they do is they run them through the Crossroads Fire District.
Okay.
So you can't have exact names within the fire district itself, so that does include, a fair area outside of Stratford itself. There is a Red Rock Lane in Stratford, and there is a Red Point Road, in Johnson's River. But we did hear from the 911 administration, and they said they are distinct enough that they would not cause issues, so they're okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Smith?
Yeah, I'd just like to, Doug Kelly, I think he's on the Heritage Committee. Correct.
Yeah.
He has done a lot of research in these names. Matter of fact, he came up with a couple more suggestions. He came up with suggestions on the names of the ferry that used to run from Southport to Charlottetown, those names. And he's also, mentioned the names of PEI Famous Five. And of course, I'm voting for this, but I think it's an excellent piece of work Mr. Kelly has done for us. And I certainly hope these names are considered in the future, because,
It's a good point. He brought up names that were historically significant to this particular location. If they can find, place names, or actual family names, that is usually where the historical significance is. But lots of times he can find an interesting story or something that ties into the historical significance of something within the community. So it's not always necessarily a landowner, but he brings great suggestions forward, and always it's a great discussion at the Heritage Committee, and usually on the Planning Committee as well.
he does good work.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Councilor Pierce, I understand where brickmaker, kiln, and red clay came from, but do you have the background of Keystone? That relates to that, did you mention that?
The keystone is above any door, the keystone is an actual mortar piece that's created. So it's used in brick making, in brick walls, above windows and above doors.
Basil, perhaps, okay,
Yes.
that's curious.
Anything else? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
That's it for me, I think, unless there's anything else that I'm not.
Thank you for your report, Councilor Burge. Next item is, number 13, infrastructure, Deputy Mayor Clowe to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Infrastructure Committee met on March 15th. The Administrative package for reviewing any questions or accommodate you with the answers, yourself or Gary or Jeannie, who's with us tonight. Some of the infrastructure department working on the wastewater delivery system, the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant. The new pump station is operating well and has no issues throughout the excessive wet weather experienced earlier this month. The contractor continues to provide warranty period services. Liquid from the lagoon cell is being pumped into the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant, anticipated to be complete by early May. In filling up lagoon cells and landscaping the site is to be completed by the end of June. And as you might know, on our website, we have 2 buildings on the site that are presently for sale. I think to the highest bidder, a 13 by 13 shed and a 12 by 25 dome building that's on our website. If people, residents or whoever are interested to look at that, pretty good shape. The buildings are here. Infiltration reduction strategy we continue to monitor and assess the sanitary sewer collection system to identify any areas requiring repairs that will reduce the amount of surface and groundwater entering the collective system. Investing in Canada, structured program updates, the storage station upgrades, Coles has finalized the report, and a meeting has been scheduled to discuss the phase one design and tendering process. Proposed upgrade to the Corey's pump station, including redirecting the flow to the trunk main, has been estimated by Coles to cost $4.5 million. And this will be phased in over several years. Water station upgrade, Hanson Electric has begun the work at the on-site water station and is anticipated to be completed by mid-May. Applications for the second call of Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program funding will be submitted by April 30th, 2021 for projects to be constructed in 2022 and 2023. Provincial Active Transportation Funds, the Ketty Road Multi-Purpose Trail Project is currently out of tender and is closing April 21st. And construction is anticipated to begin in May. Good news there. Infrastructure staff has been busy with trail repairs following the washouts and issues experienced after heavy rain in the early part of this month. Inspections of sidewalks to identify trip hazards due to heave sections and other areas needing repair. Preparing for scheduled spring maintenance of water and sewer infrastructure, both the sewer pump station cleaning and water valve exercising. Snow clearing and de-icing operations have essentially ended, although the personnel are still prepared and on call if needed. The outdoor rink season has ended. Several new surveillance cameras have been installed throughout the town properties. Preparation for water bottle filling stations to be installed at the town hall and the emergency service center. And during the month of March, there were no major issues with our water distribution or wastewater collection system. That's my report, Your Worship. Open to any questions you might have.
Any update on the Blue Frogs, decision being made on those, what we're gonna?
I believe there is one other answer that.
Some of the blue frogs actually have been purchased, and the rest of them are at tender, so we may have some extra interest in those also, so there's been 4 of them that have been purchased, but the rest of them are up for tender, so we're hopeful that the rest of them will be purchased, so it's good to see there's interest in those.
And we hired on a new supervisor, did we not? Everything's okay there?
Yeah, that was, he's been with us now for a few months, and he's working out quite well so far, but anything to monitor things.
Thank you.
On Foxwoods Marsh, the bathrooms down there, they, operational now. I see you at the meeting there, you guys had some construction meeting, identification, male, female, or proper or something?
Yeah, they're all fully operational. There is normal signage on there, but we're going to put additional signage on there to blend it to our public washings, and we talked about that today, so that's in the works.
And also the cleaning contract with the gym and so on, where we at with that now?
The new contractor is on for a year, and they've gone through walkthroughs in the building and made sure that they're aware of all the duties that they're responsible for. So there's a few things that we're tweaking with them as we go along, but I think it's working well, and that'll give us the extra time to look at what we're going to do next year, and we'll be prepared for the budget process next year.
So we have this contractor here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question for Jeremy. Is it public knowledge what we got for the blue dogs, or?
So far, the 4 that were purchased, there was a purchase price of $10,000.
Each?
No.
But 4,
Yeah.
thank you.
And is it going to another municipality, like a town, or is it grammar question, or do we?
It's a growing operation,
Okay.
very operational, actually, purchase. But we did put it out to as many municipalities as we could, try to get some interest in it, and at that time, we didn't have any interest, but they did show some interest in 4 of them, but we do have some extra ones. There is a municipality looking at our screening building, and the screening
facility that's there, that they may be looking into that and purchasing that. So we're working with them now, see how we can get that completed.
And the blue project, are we going to hold a couple back in case you need it for our pond systems here in town?
Still looking into that. Our technician indicated that, there is some risk that it may disturb the bottom more than expected, so we don't want to cause any disturbance in there. But there is some different attachments we can put on the bottom of the blue product system that may not allow it to circulate so deep. So there may be still some options there for that.
Just a question, Jeremy, is a sort of a slash complaint, but, I know this last couple weekends, the pylons, and entry Stratford, sign for Stratford, the pylons all scattered all the place, all around the area at the weekend. I don't know who's, maybe just do a footnote, contact there.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's sort of an eyesore, and we'll go pick them up, but it's really wet, rainy like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The good news is they should be going here very soon.
Yeah.
They're gonna open things back up there.
You know the timeline of the things?
I don't know exactly.
That's hard,
I'm
right?
not sure the moment that that's happening.
Yeah.
So, I'll look into that.
Yeah, just pass it on, and, just an oversight, but then,
Sure.
get down there Friday, Saturday, get it.
I just have a quick one on the active transportation fund, the Cabot Road multi-purpose trail. Have they figured out, or have we figured out, or I don't know who's figuring out what's gonna happen at the end there? As far as what you're tying into, the Georgetown sidewalk coming down, and then we're building a multi-use, active transportation out. Do we have a meeting place designed yet, or is that still up in the air?
I think it's, Gina's actually stuff, but she's been working very closely on that file, so she might have more information.
I don't necessarily have that information, but I might be able to answer your question. We have been trying to coordinate that with the province, because when we went out with the Georgetown Road project, they had indicated that they were looking at a realignment of an intersection, which we thought may have been taking place last fall. Then they indicated it would take place this year, but I've already heard that it's being pushed again and won't be happening this year. So we've just kind of cut short of the intersection with our path, just so that we don't install something that they will get in, have to tear up and realign. So we coordinate as much as we can with them, in terms of where should we stop short, so that we can look at it when they do go ahead and realize.
Okay, thanks.
Just one other thing there, I know, I'm not sure if any other councils got calls this weekend, but we did have a motor ride this weekend, ship with gravel. And I'm not sure how many big trucks came over here Saturday, but there was hundreds. And there was gravel everywhere, like I got the phone calls, emails, and I'm not sure if people did, but I know that highway safety, we're stopping vehicles on the highway. I believe the RCMP had some stop on the highway. Tickets were issued for that because I believe they're supposed to be covered, but you would not believe, and I mean, it was not small gravel, it was big rocks, big sized rocks, and it was just a mess, but I went in town and I come back 2 or 3 hours later and things had cleaned up somewhat. So the message did get back to someone that did get a sweeper or whatever they used to clean that up, but it was a terrible, terrible, worst I've ever seen as far as all over the highway, and they were flying. I mean, I believe they got some for speeding. They were flying up the train on the highway, and the roundabout was just a mess with rock because they're making the turns. But anyway, I know some of them did get fined over that. So anyway, and I'm not sure we did get a notice on that they were coming. I'm not sure. I don't know if we normally, Robert, get a notice.
Yeah, we've had a commitment for a while now, but that's no, so the person was called, but I don't know, I usually send it, no, so I didn't hear anything.
No. Yeah. No, I know I didn't get a notice, but, yeah, it was a bad situation for 2 or 3 hours, but they did clean it up very good, I gotta say, they did. There was a few little rocks around, but it was just a mess, And, I just thought I'd share that, and that's my report.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, thanks for the report, Deputy Mayor. The next item is committee of the whole. I'm sorry. No, no resolution. The next item is committee of the whole, item 14. And I will ask Deputy Mayor Clow to read that resolution, if you would.
Number CW005-2021, investing in Canada infrastructure program application. Whereas an application are due by April 30th for projects that will begin in 2020 or 2023 under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ISAP, and whereas the following capital projects have been identified for IC funding in 2021, 2022, and 2023, town 5-year capital plan in priority order. Project description, number 1, community campus site servicing 13,407,000. Green environmental quality. Number 2 is water reservoir and additions on hydrants, 977,900. With the green environmental quality. Number 3 is Kelly's Pond watershed restoration, 315,000. Green adaptation, resilient and disaster mitigations. Number 4, sewer lift station upgrades, phase 2, 1,500,000. Green environmental quality. Number 5, install solar energy systems for Stratford Emergency Service Center, 341,300. Green climate change mitigation. Number 6, install solar energy system for water station, Fullerton's, Cable Heights, on-site, and altitude valves. 1,335,900. Green climate change mitigation. 7, community campus recreation field, 4,440,000. Community culture and recreation, for a total of 22,378,100. Be resolved that the town of Stratford apply to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program for the above noted projects in the priority order shown. In addition, council understands and commits that it will be responsible for its designated share of the eligible costs of the projects and will assume responsibility for any and all operating maintenance costs resulting from the projects. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole Council at a meeting held at April 12, 2021. So
Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, discussion? Anybody speak to this?
I think it'd be, I guess, just for clarity, the percentage that we are responsible for, just for any residents that look this up and see that big number at the bottom. The percentage of what we would be responsible for would be, is it 23%?
26 and 2/3.
Oh, 26 2/3% of 22 million. So that's understood and clear.
Any other comments or discussion? We'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. Next item is sustainability. And I'll ask Councillor Darren McDougall, Chair of that committee, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our Sustainability Committee met on April the 7th. I want to just shout out to my wingman and deputy committee chair, Councillor Smith. At my work, my firewall tends to have issues when I'm on wireless, and my Councillor Smith is always there to protect me, back me up. I was losing that meeting quite a bit. Anyway, thank you, Councillor Smith, for being a good wingman.
Good CFO.
Well, I think I got most of it, but it's tough there with that, with that wireless issue. Just an overview that the minutes for the meeting are in your package. I'll give you a general overview of the meeting. The tree policy for the town of Stratford was discussed. Maddie was at the meeting. Of course, Maddie is a valuable employee of the person, and among other things, she's working working on that tree policy. There were some issues and they were discussed as far as the policy was concerned, and we had a good discussion. We have a lawyer on our committee, Michael Fleischman, so when it comes to these types of policy issues, he's a great resource, so he gave some helpful tips to Maddie as she's continuing to draft that policy. The switch program, we had a discussion on it led by our CAO, Robert. The Base Atlantic, in regard to this program, the financial administration of the program. And Robert, I'm going to speak to it, but if I'm a little off here, I don't know if you're prepared to chime in, but just please give me a heads up. But we were following the model of Guelph as far as the administration of the program. So Robert led this discussion, and Robert, without reading the whole notes from the minute, from the minutes here, that piece that we discussed, can you just share with us for a second, just to give us the clarity on that?
Sure. It will become a committee of the whole for more detailed discussion, but essentially, the Pace Atlantic, the agreement in principle that we have with them is that they'll administer this program on our behalf and take a 5% admin fee for that, which would be rolled into the loan for homeowners. And the intent in the beginning was that we would administer the loan, so we would basically send them the invoice and then collect the money from the homeowners over the period of the loan. And once we get into looking at the detail of that, Kim and her staff looked at it and just tried to figure out what we would have to do. And it looked like it was, our existing software isn't built for that, so we would have to probably get new software, set it up in Excel spreadsheet or something like that. And anyway, long story short, Pace Atlantic are also going to do some work for Guelph in their application to run a similar program. And Guelph has asked them to administer the loans as well as administer the program. And so they came back to us and said they have to gear up for it anyway. Would we be interested in them administering the loans on their behalf? And Kim and her team looked at it. They said, yes, we would like to see that happen. And they've offered to do that for 0.95% is right now what they're thinking it's going to cost. So when we get the funding for the loans, we would, at low interest rate, we would add that 0.95 to it, and then they'll administer it, and their staff don't have to gear up for it and look after it. So that's the recommendation, but we'll go through it in a little more detail at the next meeting of committee of the whole, and then we'll have to make a decision where to go from there.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that, Robert. I could have picked pieces out of this and lost it somewhere, so thanks for doing that. The LED light, street light replacement program. It's an understanding of Maritime Electric, so they are on pace to where they should be with replacing the street lights with LED. I think that at the meeting, they discussed replacing 150 a year back in 2015, and they're on pace. They have replaced a few more in the initial phases of it versus now, but they're still on the pace that they identified they would be on as far as that replacement of the LED lights is concerned. We discussed the business survey. The discussion about that, and the committee reviewed the RFQ. Wendy noted that we want to make most of this opportunity, and it's a $5,000 cost. So we had a discussion about it. We had an update on the Grey Group, their core area development. We're in the process of getting representatives from the Grey Group to make another presentation and have a chat. That will happen soon enough, I'm sure. And our Eastern PEI strategy, which Councillor Smith is going to lead the charge on that. And we had a discussion about it and the framework of it and whatnot, and how we believe it will work. And that'll be in good hands with Councillor Smith. The CADC, we touched on it, they're up and running and their board are currently meeting. They're making some adjustments at the top there at CADC. The chief executive officer is retiring and they've appointed Wade Arsenal as the new CEO. And we on that board are represented by Michael Fleischman, and I know some members of the board and we've had some discussions, and he's been a really good addition to that board and will definitely look after the interests of our town in regard to our interests in CADC. My battery just died, but I think that's likely it anyway for my sustainability report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Saving energy. Thank you. Any questions, Councilor McDougall on his report?
I just want to notify the council that the diversity and inclusion group is involved in the subcommittee of the sustainability group. They're a nice group to work with. They had a nice thoughts and ideas, and it was nice back and forth with that group. So it's well represented.
That'll tie in with one of the points I'm going to bring up as part of my report for the sustainability engagement. But, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to accountability and engagement. That's my committee, the committee that I chair, and Vice Chair Gail McDonald. I'll ask her to read the resolution when we come to it, if that's okay. At the meeting held on the 18th of March, 2021, the committee looked at the engagement strategy, reviewed the whole thing, and looked at some of the issues that have come up over the years or over the past period of time since this strategy was originally put in place. And we looked at, had quite a discussion about a couple of the challenges that we have with regard to engaging residents, especially newcomers and the younger generation, younger people in our community. And we talked about ways to motivate people to get involved, specifically newcomers and young people, and really tried to get handle on what the current situation is and how we can, we got some good ideas from some of the younger members of the committee about how we can do things to really reach out and try to get their input on specific issues. So some of those suggestions are in the minutes of the meeting. We also had a discussion about the key performance indicators, a number of the issues that were discussed there. And we did look at the preliminary results from the long-term priority survey that was completed by over 1,000 residents. So that will be being made public as soon as we can, as soon as we've got the results sort of collated and analyzed and sort of we are able to communicate basically what it means, and it has already been used to guide us, the council, with some of the preliminary results. So we look forward to releasing that as soon as possible. So that's my report. Any questions on my report? If not, I'll ask Vice Chair Councilor Gail McDonald to read the resolution.
Sure. Resolution number 8001-2021, procedural bylaw amendments, first reading. Whereas there are new requirements in the Municipal Government Act for the conduct of electronic meetings, which must be enabled in the council procedural bylaw, and whereas it is desirable to enable the consolidation of bylaws for ease of reference by users, which must be enabled in the council procedural bylaw, and whereas a number of minor wording mistakes were identified during review of the council procedural bylaw for the previous items, be it resolved that the attached bylaw number 47A, a bylaw to amend the council procedural bylaw, bylaw number 47, be hereby read and approved the first time. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Accountability and Engagement Committee as discussed at the meeting held on March 18, 2021, and from the Committee of the Whole Council meeting as discussed at the meeting held on March 24, 2021. So moved.
For the seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, discussion, I guess this, really, and maybe Robert, you might want to speak to this, as well. It really revolves around, the conduct of electronic meetings and when we're going to be able to have them. And it really, in the Municipal Government Act, this has to be enabled by this bylaw. So I guess it really is something that is, there's some legal aspects to it. Maybe you'd like to explain with Robert what some of the issues are around this and why we decided to structure the bylaw as we did.
Sure. You'll recall when we started in March, when COVID started, we switched over to electronic meetings, and at that time, the minister said, do whatever you have to do to deal with the situation. And then they brought amendments to the Municipal Government Act in the fall, and that were enacted in December, or proclaimed in December, that required municipalities to amend their bylaws to have those electronic meetings. So if we're going to continue to have electronic meetings, we have to amend our bylaw. And then the way the act is written, committee meetings can be held during non-emergency times at any time, but council can only meet unless you're unable to meet in person. So we didn't enable council to meet by electronic means during non-emergency times because really you can only do it if there's no other option. So we just enabled committee meetings during non-emergency times. The council and committees can both meet during a state of provincial emergency, a provincial health emergency, or a town Stratford emergency.
But I guess basically we can't just decide to have an electronic meeting as opposed to an in-person meeting. If we're physically able to have an in-person meeting, we'll have an in-person. We have to have an in-person meeting.
Yes, we do.
That's under the Municipal Government Act.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, does anybody have any questions or comments on that, on the resolution?
So Rob, the CAO will make that decision, make all ours joint.
No, well, during emergencies, there's provision there for that to happen, but during non-emergencies, for committee meetings, the committee themselves will have to make that decision.
So, just to be clear, we do have discretion with regard to committees. We can either have in-person or
Yes.
Electronic.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? We call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay, we'll now go to, that's my report and the resolution. So, no other questions. We'll move to item number 17, human resources. Any
Nothing that isn't at this time, Your Worship. I think we're planning to meet soon, Robert, from the request one. Next month, perhaps.
Okay, item number 18 is inquiries by members of council. Anyone have any inquiries about any particular subject at this time? Okay, we'll go to other committees, and we'll go to Stratford Seniors Complex, and I'll ask Deputy Mayor Clow to give the report for the Seniors Complex Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. The seniors, everything's going well over there. The Doucette brothers have been awarded the contract to replace the copper plate on the recirculation of the water lines. The work will be done the week of April 19th. A notice will be sent to tenants. Year-end files are now with the auditor. A new cleaner has been hired, Dwayne Eno, one of our staff members for the senior complex. The previous cleaner, May Aflack, is retired from that position, so Dwayne has been hired to take on that role. Winter maintenance is being completed. New electronic monitoring equipment is being placed on the oil tank, so that we will sort of save on oil in the future. Other than that, everything is fine over there. I guess, I'm not sure if they ran out of oil or not.
They don't have automatic fill.
They do have automatic fill, but a couple of times it has run out, so the company contacted us and they, to make it a priority.
That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. Any questions, Deputy Mayor Clow?
I just like to make a statement, to thank May Black for all her years of service there at home. She did an excellent job.
Here. That's right. I'd also like to thank Nate for all the work that she's done over the years, for the seniors and cleaning. Okay, thanks for your report, Deputy Mayor. We'll now move to appointments to committees. Anything to report there, Robert? No. Okay, proclamation. I do have a proclamation. It's National Organ and Tissue Donation Award Awareness Week, April 18th to 24th, 2021. Whereas over 4,400 Canadians need an organ or tissue transplant, and every year an average of 250 patients die waiting. And whereas over 90% of Canadians support organ and tissue donation, yet fewer than 32% have registered a decision to donate. And whereas Bill C-202 enacted National Organ Donor Week in Canada in 1997. And whereas only through education and increased public awareness can individuals be encouraged and inspired to join Canada's Lifeline and register to donate their organs and tissues. Therefore, I, Steve Ogden, Mayor of Stratford, do hereby proclaim April 18th to 24th, 2021, National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Week in Stratford, and I encourage all citizens to register their decision to become organ and tissue donors and to share that decision with their family. So proclaim.
I'd just like to add to that, the province of Nova Scotia has changed the way they get organs now. The positive trend, as far as I'm concerned, I mentioned this last month, I'll mention it again. The province of PEI went down that road, I fully support them. And it's because organ donations is very important, especially to the people who are waiting for one. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to other business, item number 22. Any other business anyone would like to raise at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you. We're now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.